Welcome to the Career Wanderlust podcast, your compass for new career horizons. Today, we are talking with Anna Taylor. Anna is an award winning chief strategist and creative communications expert who builds inclusive environments through communications. With over 15 years of experience, Anna has managed a variety of complex projects for diverse audiences. Through it all, she has developed an unwavering commitment to inclusivity, bringing her enthusiasm for diversity, equity, and inclusivity to each of her roles, as well as her speaking engagements. Anna is currently the Director of Global Communications and Change Lead with a technology leader, and I'm really excited to learn more. Anna, thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. Could you tell us or share with us what you feel has been some of your most important or favorite career advice and why?
Oh, my first step, I would say someone gave me some advice a while ago, and it was to stay curious. I absolutely love learning and trying new things. And what I found out through our career is that my curiosity is really what's propelling me forward. I like to ask the questions of why? Why are we doing something in this way? What can we do differently? How can we stretch ourselves? Is there something innovative that we can bring? And that curiosity has led me to try different things. I try storm a lot. I pilot a lot. I like to fail fast and fail forward. And so that curiosity has really helped me in my career. So I would share that advice with others. Stay curious.
Stay curious and the fast failure, being okay to fail, moving forward and checking out new things. These are all vital, not only career advice, but life advice in general, to be honest with you. And I love that you gave us some questions too, because a lot of people might need to find their curiosity, right? So I feel like that was very helpful. Is there any other ways that you've found help you find your curiosity?
Absolutely. I actually build time to be curious and play throughout my day. So, and I do this with my teams. I give my teams the ability to get a little bit of freedom to actually block their day to either discover a new article that they can bring back to us and share as a group, something fun. So we actually schedule playtime. I pull up things like finding Where's Waldo. We do a virtual puzzle together. Because what I found is building it into your day, actually carving out the time for it. We get very busy with work and it's easy to just let it fall to the back burner. But when you're intentional about it, you're like, I'm going to carve out this hour on Friday to read new things, find something I can share, learn something different. It really helps. And so I give that piece of advice to others as well. Don't try to just think it's gonna happen naturally because it'll be something that you push to the back burner. Really carve out time in your day and do it with your teams and encourage them to do it because then it becomes a group learning activity. And I learned so much from others' curiosity that helps me grow.
Oh, that is fantastic functional advice, and applicable that anyone can take and roll with right now, not only with themselves, but with their teams. And I applaud this. It's actually reflective of some of my favorite advice that I got because I used to feel like creativity was just something that came, right? That curiosity, that creativity. It's just you have it or you don't, or it just comes, but it actually is something that can be curated. And when I was told that, and that was the advice I was given to set aside time to actually put it on your calendar, that it actually creates curiosity, it creates creativity by doing that. And I found it to be absolutely true. So
But if you think about children, one of the wonderful things about kids, they're very curious. They question things. It's not like the status norm. Sometimes you think these are lots of questions, but oftentimes they're good questions. And one of the things I admire about children, and I don't know when it stopped as adults, we stop playing. And what I found is that, and there's research that supports this, playing, whatever that looks like and feels like, and sometimes it's really as simple as you think, triggers something in the brain. It works different neurons that what we use every day to do our traditional jobs. And so turning on that curiosity that's buried deep within us, the child in us, the inner child in us, it really will help.
absolutely. It brings the magic forth, right, in life, which absolutely sparks new ideas and new ways of thinking and just new ways of dealing. And you're right. That's something that so many of us have lost in life.
We become grown-ups and then totally forget.
So let's all bring the play back, okay? Anna is giving everyone permission to bring play back into their lives.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I love it. I think that's fantastic. Now, have you found that to benefit your own work?
So in my role, because I get to lead all things communications, I get to try out of the fun things. Like people say, your group is the fun group. I've been able to build it into our culture. So what does that
Mm.
look like? We have a game show that I launched when I
Oh,
started here.
yes.
It is a game show that we use different platforms. Right now we're using Kahoot. We do it. And it is bringing together adult learning principles, so we are is around a subject that we want people to get deeper about or learn about, or sometimes it's just to bring some of our cultural activities to the forefront if we're celebrating a diversity month or heritage month or something like that. But it has been one of the top rated activities, the engagement activities that we've had. And when I first pitched it, everyone was like, no one's gonna want to play. No one's gonna want to do this. And I was like, let's just try. Let's just try. And my team and I came up with the format. We all pitch and take turns actually planning it, producing it, impact and the enthusiasm, the number of slots that get taken up really, really quickly if you want to be on the stage versus in the audience. It's been amazing to just see it organically grow. And it all started from our team meeting. I put together a little play, a little family feud moment that I was doing with my team to help us understand what we were measuring, like our KPIs. And it was so fun. And it was like, this is great. We should try this with the larger group. And now it's very much one of our top rated engagement activities.
That is fantastic. I love it so much. This is great. I'm inspired by it. I mean, I feel like I could take this on a smaller scale for my team. I'm really into it.
You would be surprised the competitiveness that comes out, that comes out as well.
Well, it's a bonding, and when it's a great way to learn. Fun is the best way to learn always. So I love it so much. Now, what about a personal story for you? Is there a story that has happened in your own career that was really impactful and you learned something from it that could benefit other people from hearing your story and what you learned?
Yes. Oh, there's so much over the last 15 years that I could share. But
Appreciate
what I will share is um last year I had an opportunity to really understand and really ground myself in what's really important to me as a professional, as a person. And you talked about it a lot, which is this idea of being as inclusive as possible in our communication efforts, but beyond that. And so last year I had an opportunity, whether I wanted to accept it or not, I went viral for a graphic that was really trying to help us replace words that may have trauma response or violent undertones in our workplace and just swap them out.
Yeah.
So
Like what?
instead of, yeah, just like instead of, we'll take a stab at it, we'll launch this project, like just different terms. And
Mhm.
it went viral and it was beautiful to see for a couple of reasons. One, there are people that were reaching out to say, "How do I say this differently? I never really liked this phrase, 'kill 2 birds with 1 stone.' Why are we killing birds, and why are we hitting them?" And so I came up with, I've heard it in the past, like, "Feed 2 birds with 1 stone." And you're like, "Wow, never heard of that. Now we'll use that." Or, "Why are we pulling the trigger on this project? Why aren't we just launching this project?" And so it was beautiful to see all of the other ways organically people wanted to kinda do better and just changing something very, very small. As with anything, there's 2 sides to every coin. I also went viral in the worst ways, which brought a lot of attention that wasn't so great of people
Mm.
thinking that I was, like, trying to tell people what to do. We're too woke culture.
Oh,
But what I
no.
in that moment going through that was that people just don't know sometimes, and they feel like something's being taken away from them versus helping them understand. And I had a lot of conversations, people in my DMs, really trying to understand am I bad for saying this? Am I a bad person? And once you kind of remove from people, no, you're not bad. We all have room to grow. We all have ways that we can improve. It's not an indictment on you as a
Mhm.
person that if you do this or say this thing, you're inherently bad. That's not what this was about. It was more about just understanding how we can make it a little bit easier for everyone in the room by just changing some of the everyday speak that we have. And that was
Absolutely.
really impactful in my career because it was the opportunity for me to really lean in and say, I'm committed to doing this, even with all the attention that it may bring at times.
Yeah. So the negative tension, you mentioned the woke. So when you get into that woke, I know that there can be a lot of negative tension. How did you deal with the negative tension that came your way?
Friends,
Friends.
strangers on the internet. So throughout this process, this is my first time ever going viral. I write things, I say things, I talk about a lot of things. My 5 little friends always are there to high five. When this happened, the pouring in my inbox from others who were recognizing what was happening, who saw the other comments as they went viral on Twitter, coming to my LinkedIn, people started to reach out to say, "Hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Hey, I don't like," and I had a lot of people that I've got a chance to meet to say, "This happened to me too. Is this your first time? Let me tell you how I dealt with this and I handled it." And so I got a chance to meet so many incredible people that I probably would not have crossed paths with without this incident and without this moment. And they really helped me get through it to understand, like, no, this is a good message. Don't
Mhm.
block out all the noise. Let's help you kind of push through and understand what's happening and what's not happening. And with anything in the news, I've worked in the media for quite some time. Give it 24, 48 hours and everyone's on to something,
True
to
story.
something different. And so that's how I got through it. And I'm really grateful for those connections that I've made and still keep in touch with since that incident.
That's wonderful. And you had shared with me earlier when we had spoke that this actually led to additional speaking engagements around this topic.
I did. And till this day, it's been about a year. It's coming up on a year. Um, a few companies reached out to say, "Hey, we actually have policies in place where we're trying to promote inclusive communications." Something as small as instead of putting "Hey guys" in all of the emails, like they say they have accountability partners to say there may be women on this team that don't identify in that way, or people who were trying to help others feel comfortable listing their pronouns. And so because I had worked in the DNI space, I actually did DNI communications for a few years before this happened. I had an opportunity to really educate and go to these organizations and companies and really have small group conversations. What I really liked about the small group conversations were people got a chance to ask questions. And when you ask the right questions, and there's no such thing as a wrong question, but sometimes it caused me to think and pause and reflect. And as I understood, for example, in a global environment, I got a chance to hear from others who are in Europe and in Asia. They were like, the things that I'm hearing from my American colleagues, they do not sit well with me. I don't know how to respond. And it was just small things that we say every day in our day to day work life. And no one is thinking about how, from a global perspective, is this resonating or
Right.
not resonating with our colleagues. And so I truly do appreciate, and I'm working on something now that I had a large organization reach out last week to say, we want to take this a little bit further.
Great.
We know that you experience some backlash with it, but we have some really high level people who are willing to stand behind this work, this body of work, and we want to do better and we want to support you in that way. So I'm excited for what's to come from it still.
Yeah,
And
I'm
when I get a
excited for
moment,
you.
I'm excited. I mean, it's interesting. In the moment, you start thinking, like, was this worth it? Was it? And then once all of the dust settles and you get a chance to really read through the hundreds of comments and emails and DMs for people inside my workplace that sent me an email, a really high level, one of our presidents sent me an email and said, I started to write. I'll take the first stab at it, and I erased it, and I put, I'll take the first pass at it, and I thought about you, and I smiled, and I was like, "Oh, that's that," it's like, it's like, I
Yeah.
was like, "I'm getting better," and I was like, it's just one small, action that can be really impactful over time.
Absolutely. And I just, I love that even though you went through this negative experience of the backlash that you experienced, that it ended up elevating your voice on something that is just so important. And I just find that the story is a good example of life, and really, when we have things that come into our life that feel very negative and they're very difficult and they're very challenging. But when we get through them and we take the time not only to learn from our own experiences with them, but to talk to other people, right? And to have those conversations and to really learn as much as we can, whatever that looks like within that process, it just elevates us to the next level. And you're just taking all of that information that you got from all of those people, learning how to talk to them and the ways that they're going to hear and taking it to that higher level stage, which I think is absolutely wonderful.
I like to call them courageous conversations.
Mm.
When people feel very differently from you, it can be difficult to come to the source and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, I felt differently about this, and here's why." Or can you help me understand? And so in the last year, I probably had more courageous conversations in the last
Mhm.
year than I've had my entire career, just because it
Mhm.
was something so, I thought, innocuous. I truly thought that this was just something that would pass. I will put it out there. But the more I told people where it came from, what the impetus of it was, which was, I think I shared with you, Lunar New Year in 2023, 11 Asian Americans were killed right down from my job headquarters. And all that Sunday, I worked on our crisis communication plan. I worked on statements for our leaders because it was so close to home. And that first meeting I had on that Monday, someone said, "We're going to pull a trigger on this project next week." And that was the first time I think I've had a physical and visceral reaction to the words that we were using. And I
Mhm.
just thought, why would we say that?
Yeah.
Why do we say that? And that whole week, I just listened to the language that we were using. And so once I helped people understand that it didn't come from a place of trying to dictate anyone's language, and now being or
No.
trying to make a two work woke culture, it really came from sitting in that room thinking, if I am my colleague who experienced this in their neighborhood, because I'm remote and everyone else was on site, how would I feel right now? Like, what is the impact of just that small sentence that maybe had been said dozens of times on me at this moment, given what has happened in the last 24 hours? And so
Absolutely.
once people understand, then they understand, I see, I can totally see, how this would be helpful to someone else.
Absolutely. Well, our words have power. They have extreme power. And how we express ourselves and the words we use not only have power on ourselves, but on situations around us and the people around us. Just the way when someone says, oh, that's really challenging, that's going to feel different than, oh, that's an opportunity. And just like when you said, we're going to kill two birds with one stone, that feels different than we're going to feed two birds with one stone. It has a different feel. I mean, go ahead and just say it. It feels better. Why don't we want to choose words that feel empowering and feel better? This is a beautiful thing across the board.
Absolutely, and to echo something that you just said, words do have so much power, and the beauty of our language is that it's ever evolving. A
Mhm.
lot of the conversations that I've had about this particular topic is around inclusive communications. People were like, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words would never hurt me." And I was like, tell that to someone that's ever been called the N word
Mhm.
or the F word or something really, really hurtful. That's not true.
It's
We
not
we
true.
want to believe that, but that's not true.
It's
And
absolutely not
the
true.
way our language has evolved, I sit back. I love 90s TV. I watch old episodes of a lot of shows. But there are some shows today, I'm like, this episode definitely would not fly. I cringe when I watch because I'm like, openly spoke like this.
Yes.
And
Oh,
never if you did it, even in just, not even in a professional setting around your friends, someone may look at you and say, "Hey, hey, hey, we don't use that word anymore. We don't say that." And that's the beauty of our language. In 5 years, 10 years from now, something that we're using today may cause discomfort and maybe something we should relook at and examine to say, are there better ways to say this? And
yep.
and that's okay. Because you're
That's
if
how we evolve.
we evolve.
Yeah.
Language evolves
Yes.
all the time.
Yes. Yes. It's important. It's important that everything evolve, right? Yes.
Yes.
That's what we're doing here. So, I love it. This is a great conversation. I'm curious, Anna, though, because you have also held a lot of great roles with great companies, and there's a lot of people out there that are looking for something new in their career. What have you found has been one of some of the bigger impacts for you that has helped you land your roles?
Beyond staying curious, one of the things I would say is being flexible and nimble.
Mm.
Some of the best projects that I've got a chance to work on, whether I was voluntold or volunteered, really shaped part of my career and allowed me to lean in areas that I didn't know. And I'll give you an example. About 4 or 5 years ago, I'm a project manager in addition to all of the things. I know how to manage a project really well, but there was this need to understand change management. And I thought to myself, "Oh, what this is not my function. This is not my role, and but someone needed to do it with all of these large scale changes that were
Mhm.
happening around the organization. So it landed on my plate as, "Hey, you do the communications, you can also do the change management." At the time, people were saying they're one and the same. I have come to learn as a certified change management practitioner that you cannot manage change through email. But at the time,
Yeah.
that's what everyone was thinking. You send out the emails, you can manage the change. But I accepted that. I accepted that challenge and that role, knowing nothing about it, doing all of the trainings at the time that I could find, talking to
Mhm.
different people, and really have come to love it. And went on to become a certified practitioner. Now I actively lead because I want to, not being
Mhm.
told to, large scale change projects. And it's really people say this is a very interesting trajectory from your communications career, and I say they complement each other, right?
Right,
At
they
the
do.
end of the day with communications, knowing your audience, who your audience is, what matters to them, and how to communicate with them is very similar in change management. Understanding your employee in the center and what matters to them and what's in it for them helps you help them manage the change and move through the change. And so it's been one of those things that had I not been flexible and nimble, had I not leaned in, even when I thought I don't know what I'm doing and I'll figure it out, I would have missed a opportunity to find something that's an equal passion to the work that I do around communication. So
Right.
I would tell those who are trying to understand and searching, it's okay to try something new.
Mhm.
It's okay to find the opportunity in the challenge, like you said before.
Mhm.
It's something that you don't wanna necessarily do, but you're being given it. What can you learn from it and take from it that will help you further what you do want to do?
Right.
And that's some really good advice that I would share.
Oh, it's fantastic advice. Dead on. Yes. Oh, excuse me. See, that's not good wording.
Come on, spit it
Come
on.
on. Yeah.
Which mean you
Yeah.
reference it's like a
Yeah.
muscle, right?
Yeah.
It's a muscle. I still find at times I say things, but it's a muscle that you
Yeah.
will now that you're cognizant of it, it'll click on and you'll say, "Oh, and okay, I'll figure out how to say something differently to
Yeah.
it." That's what
Exactly.
on.
Come on. Good example, people, right? In action. Well, and I love to ask people because I just think that we are all consuming so much. We're consuming books, we're consuming media, TV, movies, listening to podcasts. And there's a lot of things that are causing positive ripples out there. So I love to find out from people if there's something that you read, watched, or listened to that had a positive impact on your life that you think could help other people as well.
Absolutely. So I will start with something that I listen to weekly,
Mhm.
if not daily. It is my favorite podcast. It is the Communicators podcast.
Mm.
And I tell people, if you're a communicator and you're wondering how you can grow and be fed, this podcast is called Think Fast, Talk Smart, and it's out of Stanford. It's a professor at Stanford. So it's Think Fast, Talk Smart. It has a beautiful red, vibrant background if you find it on wherever you listen to. But I've learned something every single time. I've been doing
Right.
comms for 15 years. That I think to myself, what else could you possibly possibly learn in terms of communication? The essence of storytelling, putting words together to move people. And this podcast feeds me in ways that I could not imagine, and I take a
Mhm.
little nugget from each episode, and I have a little cheat sheet that I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna try this one differently, I'm gonna do something differently, I'm gonna look this up, expand on this a little bit," but it really has made me a better communicator. It's made me a better leader that in ways you didn't even imagine. The episode that I listened to today was about better meetings,
Ooh.
and that's when I
See?
when I first saw it, I was like, I was gonna skip it. I'm like, I've been hosting meetings all my life. I think I do a really good job of hosting meetings. In the insight around the science of meetings, which I never cared to really dive into, and to hear this communication professional talk about the way you intentionally design your meeting from the agenda to the engagement activity to the questions you ask to even the pauses that you actively take. You say, it's a virtual meeting. We're going to sit back and we're going to think about the question I just asked for about 90 seconds. And then I would like you to lend your voice or type in the chat how you're feeling. I thought to
Yes.
myself, that is incredibly
Yes.
powerful. I lead a
Mhm.
lot of large meetings. I've never done this. I'm going to do this. And it all started from someone talking about meetings. So I say that to say it is a great podcast that I recommend to any and everyone um,
It
if they're
sounds
trying
fantastic.
to be a better communicator.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. Well, and anything that you say that, especially if it's your specialty, and like you said, and you can learn something from each episode, that's expertly done. Great suggestion all around. And really, people who are listening to this are communicators. That's that, so that should be helpful.
It's one you will want to subscribe to. It will not disappoint.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna check out that meetings one because I run meetings as well, but I'm sure I can be better at it. Exactly when you started talking about that, well, I haven't really thought about how I run my meetings in a proactive way in quite a while. It's probably time to do that. So thank
It
you.
was and I brought it to my team earlier today, VP team, I support our C-suite, and we have a very large meeting that's coming up where the agenda is just really packed, and I began to ask the questions that came up in the podcast, like, what is the outcome that we want? What are our intentions? And are we designing this meeting in a space to get that? If we have a 2-hour meeting and we have 18 agenda items, probably not. So,
Mhm.
probably not. Or how do we think about getting the answers to some of these things? Like, do we have questions that we're trying to answer with our agenda? And we're going to go back later this week to look at the full agenda and then really ask ourselves, are we designing this meeting in the best way versus updates? Everyone was like, oh, we'll get a lot of updates. Well, there are many other ways to get updates than and then a meeting. And how well are we digesting those updates? If this person has 4 minutes,
Yeah.
that's very specific.
Yeah.
4 minutes to go through their slides. It's not serving anyone
No,
well.
no, it's not. No, this is all fantastic advice. Thank you. This has been such a fun conversation, Anna. Before you go, I'd love to find out what do you feel is your personal superpower and how has it served you?
Great question. My personal superpower would be the power of persuasion through motivating with the right words. I like to believe that I can reach and resonate with almost any audience because I'm choosing to speak to them in the way that they are going to receive the message. I am choosing to speak as plainly as possible and let that come through. What I found, especially being in the science and technology space, we use a lot of jargon. And I go back and forth with our leaders a lot on distilling down what exactly are we trying to say? What do we want someone to do once they hear this information? What impact do we want to have? What action do we want to move them to? And if they can't get past the 4 or 5 letter syllable words that really do show we have a lot of smart people in our organization, it's not going to matter. And so I really have the ability to take very complex information, distill it down, and package it in a way that reach and resonates with the audience. And at the end of the day, motivates them to do something that they may not have done had
Mhm.
we not taken that time to do that.
That is a superpower that is serving you well in your chosen profession. That's for sure.
Thank you. Bring this so epic. And what is the point of it all if no one understands? No
Right.
one understands it.
Exactly. Well, and your superpower is actually something, okay, because it boils down to that clear, not clever, right? Which we struggle with as a population and a majority, I would say. I know I do. Like, I mean, we're always trying to be clever or look how this is really cool. I don't know. But you just need to be very clear. And like you said, give the message in a way that people are going to hear it and want to respond to it and actually engage with your message. And that is a very special talent. So that is a very special superpower to have because a small percentage of you have it.
Very, very quick story about that. That's when I knew this was truly my superpower. I At the beginning of Twitter, I helped the federal government launch their first Twitter channel. So I was at the
Oh,
Centers for Disease
wow.
Control and Prevention, and I knew Twitter was the place to be. And I pulled together so many presentations to try to convince our leadership that Twitter was where we needed to be to get to our audience. Like, we do a lot of publishing of papers and working with the media, but this is a direct channel to our audience. And finally, our director at the time was like, "Well, I'll give it a try, Anna. I'll give it a try." And we were releasing a report about the importance of physical activity. And I worked with the scientists, and they were like, "We want to put out the tweet that says you need 30 minutes of metabolic cardiovascular activity." I was like, "Wait, what are we trying to say?" And they were like, "They need 30 minutes of high metabolic cardiovascular activity. It's good for the heart." And I was like, "Do we want them to exercise?
Yeah.
Are we asking them to exercise? What has to," and I said, "Oh, okay. How about this? If we're gonna put both tweets out 2 separate times of the day, totally different, and if my tweet gets more attention and engagement, likes and reshares, then we can launch the channel, and I know how to speak to the people." And that's what we did. We launched them, and all of the scientists were engaging with that 30 minutes of metabolic cardiovascular, I can't even remember it, and then the exercise is what started trending.
Yeah.
And I was like, as plainly as possible, "Here we go." It's so cool. And like,
Well, that's a message everyone can take with them. Your messaging should always be as clear as possible. Would you not agree?
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. If it's not clear, and if it doesn't land, and if no one understands it, then it's like, what's that saying? Like, if a tree falls in a forest, doesn't
Is anyone here?
if it's just words out there and no one's picking up on what you want them to do and the message and the essence of it, it's just no, it becomes noise. We are
Yeah.
adding to the noise and not breaking through the noise, which is
Yeah.
what you want to do with your communication.
Exactly. Beautiful message. Thank you. Anna, I have had so much fun with our conversation. Thank you for joining me on Career Wanderlust.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for extending it. This is a great conversation, and yeah, I'm excited to see all that's next for you in this podcast. You have a new fan, a new number one fan at that.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust podcast. If you find value in learning from others, give us a like and subscribe. If you're looking to grow your communications, marketing, public relations, or sales and biz dev team with the best talent and quickly, check us out at paradigmstaffing.com and submit a request. We are wishing you a most successful and fulfilling career. Until next time.